Coming up on the May edition of Channel 12's Lakeside News, we'll meet the new recruits attending this year's West Hennepin Public Safety Citizens Police Academy. A husband and wife duel will show us what's lurking at the bottom of Lake Minnetonka. We'll recap the West Tonka Historical Society's fundraiser, Remember When. And we'll learn the secrets of Steamboat Minnehaha in another edition of Lake Lore. Lakeside News is next. Hi, I'm Chris Boat, and welcome to Lakeside News, where you'll find news and events from around the lake area. Each spring, the West Hennepin Public Safety Department holds their annual Citizens Police Academy. This 7-week class was designed to create a better understanding of law enforcement through education. Let's meet the recruits.
So the Citizens Police Academy is a program that we offer to citizens to come in and learn more about the police department. The Police Academy was created to allow residents to get some education about how the police department works and what the police department is about. If there's one thing about cops, they like little tools. So this is pepper spray, and it's pretty much what everybody carries, pretty much the standard now. And the taser makes an electrical contact.
I signed up because I'm actually going to school at St. Cloud for criminal justice law enforcement. I thought it'd be really cool to kind of get a taste for it and learn as much about it as I can.
Action versus reaction. Action wins every time.
Well, I'm a sitting city council member for the City of Independence, and I've worked with the police department in the past. I think if citizens understand a little bit more the role that the public safety officers play in their daily lives, that they'll have a little more understanding and tolerance for police activity.
If a person's just refusing to get out of the car, we want to get out of the car. We can't just go ahead and start macing them, hitting them with the baton, shooting them. We have to first go through our levels of force, depending on what they're doing.
Being on the fire department, we work pretty hand in hand with the police department, so it's kind of nice to see their side of it instead of just from the citizen side. Yeah, I guess the more we know, the better off we can help out.
I've been a reserve with West Hennepin since November of 1986. When I was graduating from high school and going to college, I was interested in law enforcement. Unfortunately, at that time, it was very difficult for women to get into law enforcement, so I saw this as a way of being involved in law enforcement without actually being a law enforcement officer.
I think the Citizens Police Academy helps to educate people so that they understand that the police have a method as to why they do things. A lot of people, again, don't have an interaction with the police department through most of their lives. If we have a relationship built already, we find that they have a tendency to be more comfortable, and it's easier to make that report or work through an emergency if they already have an idea as to who's coming.
Coming up after the break, we'll find out what lies beneath Lake Minnetonka. Lakeside News returns in a moment.
Coming up on Precious Pets. Hey, aren't they cute? Uh-oh, everyone's favorite pooch, Corporal Cuddles, isn't wagging his tail on tonight's episode.
We interrupt this program to bring you this important message.
The Lake Minnetonka Communications Commission, located in Spring Park, Minnesota, offers free television production classes. You heard it right. Free, free, free. All you need to do is sign up and show up to receive your special TV training. That's right, folks. That's it.
Wow, that sure looks easy.
Our friendly and knowledgeable staff will help bring your idea to the big screen. Well, that is if you have a big screen.
Why, thank you. We are very friendly and knowledgeable.
You'll learn the secrets of how a television studio works.
If you can't see video, try taking off the lens cap.
Wow! Thanks, LMCC.
From studio lighting and nonlinear editing to on-location shooting, we'll guide you down the path you need to succeed. Just call us at 952-471-7125 or go to our website at www.lmcc-tv.org to get started today. Hurry in, folks. An opportunity this good won't last forever.
We now return you to your regularly scheduled programming.
Christopher Olson and Ann Merriman are archaeologists using sonar technology to scan the bottom of Lake Minnetonka,
Like mowing the lawn, back and forth, back and forth.
looking for lost steamboats and other unknown wrecks.
Maritime Heritage Minnesota was founded by us in 2005 to preserve, conserve, document, and when necessary, excavate Minnesota's maritime resources. Our main goal is to preserve and educate people about the sites that we find and that we document.
We have 250-foot beams going out on either side of the boat. We have a GPS map on our sonar unit.
Part 1 of the Lake Minnetonka survey was completed last year and yielded some unexpected results.
There's the barge in St. Albans, about a 75-foot barge, what we think once belonged to Captain Johnson, who was a prominent sailor on Lake Minnetonka. There's a rather large, another 70-foot wreck in Wayzata Bay. We were hoping that it might be part of the city of St. Louis, which was a prominent steamboat in the 1890s. There are the wrecks that are north of Big Island, 3 of the streetcar steamboats of the 6 that used to operate on the lake.
They were sunk on purpose, most of them.
These wrecks are the only physical thing we have that tells how they were built.
Because we got all these anomalies, 75 of them in Lower Lake. And of those anomalies, we think 9 of them are probable shipwrecks, 13 are possibles. We might have just tripled the number of known wrecks in Minnesota just from this survey. We got a Minnesota Historical and Cultural Grant, part of the Legacy Amendment, to do this work. We got a grant to do the work on Lower Lake too, so there's 2 grants now that just have been Lake Minnetonka. And we're working on another grant to actually then dive on all the wrecks. What makes Lake Minnetonka so great is it's got steam launches, it's got a stern wheeler, it's got a side wheeler, it's got the streetcar boats which were propeller, the gasoline or steam launch,
kind of a little bit of everything.
Sailboats. Those smaller boats are just as interesting to us as the big steamers. And we're eventually, with all this work, once we dive on these sites, recognize what they are, the ultimate goal is to create a National Historic Shipwreck District with the federal government, and that'll be a first for Minnesota underwater.
Chris and Ann are continuing to search the lake and hope to publish Part 2 of the Lake Minnetonka survey shortly, revealing these hidden wrecks to the public.
We don't want to restrict access. If everyone treats the wrecks with respect, everyone can dive on them, everyone can enjoy them. That's our goal.
Coming up next, we'll recap the Westonka Historical Society's fundraiser, Remember When. Lakeside News returns in a moment.
Here's what's coming up on First Responder TV. Swimming can provide adults and children with hours of fun and exercise. We'll give you some common sense tips to keep you safe. Assistant Fire Chief Troy Walsh tells us some history on the Victoria Fire Department as they celebrate their 100th year. We'll give you an update on scams that have been targeting citizens in the lake area. The LMCC safety expert gives you some important severe weather tips on Safety Source.
First Responder TV airs daily on LMCC's Channel 12.
Well, the name of our event tonight is Remember When, a historic event. And we're doing this as the first annual fundraiser for the community museum that will be the Westonka History Museum. We have been offered a place. We've been invited to be in the Centennial Building, the old City Hall at Bound. And we have a collection that represents the Westonka community. And so we've invited people here tonight to help us support that. We have 7 history stations, and we have people who are manning each of the stations, so people can go from place to place. And there are food stations along the way and videos that they can look at themselves about parts of our history. We had a new fellow come forward to volunteer with our board, whose name is Brad Sones, and he has created for us videos. We've done the history part and the finding the photos, and he's put it together so that we now have a couple dozen videos on a variety of topics that are going to be available at the museum.
Can people go to the website and see some of this stuff as well, or is that the plan?
Yep, at the moment you can. We put some on purpose to advertise this event, and we think that we'll continue to rotate them through the website so that there might be a new one up every month or so, and there would be new ones at the museum regularly as well. But people can also always become members. If they're a member, then they get the newsletter and they're current with what our planning is. They can always write a donation, send a donation to us. We have a P.O. box here in Mound, P.O. Box 84, Mound, Minnesota. Westonka Historical Society, WHS, on your check. You can call us at 952-472-9800 in case you have some things you'd like to donate to the museum to include in our collection. We'd be delighted to receive those as well.
Okay. What about the website?
The website is westonkahistoricalsociety.org, and that would be a place to connect with the videos as well as to make donations. Well, what we found tonight, I think, is that there are a whole variety of people who didn't know about the museum and who are interested in our having a museum in town, and we're delighted that's true. And we'd like people to let us know how to contact them. So if people would just call our local number or respond to the website and let us know how we can reach them better, we'd love to connect with them.
Well, I've had a long time interest in the local history of the Mound and Westonka area, and especially in transportation and the early boats that plied the waters of Lake Minnetonka. It wasn't just Excelsior and Wayzata that had claim to fame with the boats. We also had them come up to Mound, Cook's Bay, for a number of years. Steamboats and the original paddle wheelers, along with the later streetcar boats that came in the early part of the 20th century. Well, most of the people that, of course, got to experience the boats and the hotels firsthand are not with us anymore. So kind of go by the stories that were recorded by the Historical Society probably 30 plus years ago. So at least we have some of those memories still available to us. Back when I was in high school at the old Mound High School, I had a chemistry teacher, Mr. Nielsen, that introduced the class to Mound and Lake Minnetonka history. And for some reason that just really stuck, and I always had an interest ever since then. It's interesting to know that Mound itself had over a dozen hotels at one time. And they were geared to a little different market, probably more of a family, more moderate budgets for some of the people that couldn't afford to go to some of the bigger, more expensive hotels on the east end of the lake in Excelsior or Wayzata or wherever. By far the most famous one in this area would have been the Del Otero Hotel, which actually managed to be one of the longest lasting hotels of nearly 60 years, from 1885 to 1945. After that, of course, the Chapman House is probably the next most famous, having started out in 1875 and was probably one of the most famous hotels in the Mound area.
I decided to do some research on my family, and so I visited the museum to see what they had. I also wanted to find out some information about the historical hotels in Mound, and as well as streetcar boats, and so I stopped to see what they have. I found a lot of information I thought was really interesting, and because I have an IT background, before I knew it I started creating videos and started interviewing people and seeing what they had, and now I've created like 15 videos. The Blast from the Past basically covers 190 years and 120 seconds. So basically it's just a collection of pictures from the beginning of Lake Minnetonka in 1822 all the way to present, and focuses a lot on the historic hotels and streetcar boats and things like that. Well, I enjoy this history because my family has lived here for 6 generations. My children are the 6th generation to live in Minnetonka and Mound. My family first came to the area in 1860. We need to preserve the history for future generations. Generally, people don't care that much about history until they're over 50, and if we don't preserve it, when the next generation gets there, there will not be anything for them to see.
Back in 1947, Lynn Baker approached my mother and asked her to go to work for Tonka. They had just set up the plant and they wanted to get started. They had had all the equipment, everything was ready to go to make the first toys. So she worked there for many years. She worked from 1947 until she retired in 1972. Growing up with Tonka toys was really exciting because I was 7 years old at the time, and I could sneak over there and talk to all the people, collect all the parts that were left over, and make my own Tonka toys. Now, when I graduated in 1959, we did not have enough money. I wanted to go to college, so I put my application in. And because I had a little bit of pull with my mother, I started in 1959. I worked in the old schoolhouse for 2 years. At that time, all the ladies and all the people got laid off. Well, we used to call him Old Mac. He was the engineer. And he says, "You're not going to lay Jerry off. He's going to work for me." So I cleaned up all his benches and everything for that winter. Tonka was a great company to work for. And it was a family-owned or owned company. My real fondest thing was I was able to talk to all the people that started the company and all the people otherwhere, that worked there. And I got to know everybody. So.
Can you tell which of these children was not born free? Can you tell which of these children was not born equal? Can you tell which of these children does not deserve to be treated with dignity? We can't either. Human right number one. We are all born free and equal. What are human rights? Find out at youthforhumanrights.org.
Welcome back. It's time for some local history. This month we'll learn about the secrets of Steamboat Minnehaha in another edition of Lake Lore.
The Minnehaha is 105 years old. It was built by the streetcar company over the winter of 1905-1906. Went into operation in May of 1906. It operated on Lake Minnetonka for just 20 years. By 1926, ridership was down on the streetcars, and concurrently the ridership went down on the streetcar boats, of which there were 7 at that point. The streetcar company took these boats offline in 1926. Minnehaha was stripped of her machinery and fittings and towed out to deep water north of Big Island and deliberately scuttled and sunk by the streetcar company in August of 1926. There she remained lost to history for over 50 years. In the summer of 1979, a diver by the name of Jerry Provost was exploring the lake bottom, and he discovered several of these hulls on the bottom. He made arrangements over the winter of 1979-1980 to have one of these hulls lifted from the bottom and brought to the surface. Those efforts became successful, and in August of 1980, a hull was brought up from the bottom and towed ashore. And it was in such remarkable condition that when the ballast was removed from the hull and she was pumped free of the water, she floated under her own buoyancy and was brought ashore. Today she's operated and owned by the Museum of Lake Minnetonka, which is a nonprofit corporation here in the state of Minnesota and an all-volunteer organization. We have about, I would say, 75 active members today. Of those, approximately 50 are active crew, and there's a mix of people that do all sorts of engineering and electrical work and mechanical work, finishing work. There's advertising and marketing, and we have booths at some of the events around the lake during the year. Art on the Lake in Excelsior is one of the first ones that kicks off the season. We participate at Apple Day in Excelsior, as well as James J. Hill Days in Wayzata towards the end of the season.
Meet the Coopers. This all-American family is trying to decide where to go on vacation this summer. Dad wants to take the boys hunting, but Mom sure won't allow that. Here's a suggestion. How about a can't-miss, family-friendly classic car show in the greatest town in America, Victoria, Minnesota? What do you say, boys?
Gee, Dad, sounds swell.
Don't forget about the dogs. What about Arnold? And so their journey begins. The bags are packed, ducks are all in a row, and only 5 hours behind schedule. Careful, Bobby, that's not a toy. Uh-oh, looks like someone was looking at the map upside down again. Don't take it personally, Mom. With a stroke of luck, the Coopers are back on track. Almost there, boys. Hey boys, let's behave in the back. You don't want your dad to turn the car around. Hey, and what's that? There it is, Victoria, Minnesota. And it's in color. Look at all those classic cars. What a sight. Be sure to drive your ride to our classic car night in downtown Victoria, Minnesota, Wednesdays from 5 to 8 p.m. June, July, August, September, and October. Don't miss it, and come on down to Victoria. Well, there you have it, news and events happening in and around the lake area. If you have a news story or see something exciting going on, please let us know. We can be reached here at the LMCC at 952-471-7125, via email at lmcc@lmcc-tv.org, or please check us out on our website at www.lmcc-tv.org. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next month on Channel 12's Lakeside News.